It is a little bit, but on Her Majesty's Secret Service is a classic. That's like
it is. I think it is, like, as I tweeted, it's like half the best Bond movie and half inane winter sports bullshit, and I can't quite overlook the fact that
please start
the
podcast.
Is just unusable.
We're not going to pretend that the 2026 MotoGP season is a wildly unpredictable thing that we're expecting to be ultra close and crazy at the front, but it is going to be pretty cool, we think. Maybe cooler than last year. This is the Race MotoGP Podcast. I'm Matt Beer. With me are Simon Patterson and hater of predictions podcasts, Val Khorounzhiy, who is going to spend the next hour making predictions. I've let these two prepare for some of the predictions. Other stuff, I'm just going to throw one-liners at them and demand one-line answers at random intervals. Our first topic is whether there will be any semblance of a title fight this year. Simon, you go first on this one. I think we should define what we see as a title fight as well, because there are degrees of this.
There's going to be a really, really, really good close fight for second. I mean, if you take Marc Marquez out of the equation, there's going to be an amazing title fight. This is the closest that MotoGP has looked pre-season in a really, really long time, apart from the fact that the best rider in the world is riding the best motorbike in the world, and he's going to clear off. And it like, genuinely, that is something to be excited about, because for one thing, okay, maybe it doesn't go that way, but it's probably going to take something that we don't want to really think about too much, like Mark getting hurt, for that to change. Yeah. But generally, we've seen previous years like that, and they've always been really entertaining. And actually, I'm here for it. I'm not being negative this year in any way about the excitement of MotoGP, because actually I think second place is going to be a proper battle. And you know what? If Mark wins every race by 10 seconds and the broadcast coverage can tear themselves away from showing him doing laps on his own to show us what should be quite a good fight behind, there's like 6 guys could potentially finish P2 if the stars align and their bikes are where we think they are. And But both Aprilias are there. Bagnaia is there. Potentially the VR46 bikes are going to be nipping around. Alex Marquez isn't that far away. Who knows what Pedro Acosta is going to do? Ayagura could be the dark horse in an Aprilia that's amazing, at least on some weekends. There is genuinely, I'm excited about P2. Does that count as a title fight?
No, but it counts as a fight. Val?
I think I would define a title fight for me as a championship battle that goes to at least the penultimate weekend. So it doesn't have to be the final weekend. I think the penultimate weekend still sort of qualifies. And I guess it depends. If they enter the penultimate weekend 70 points ahead, then maybe not. Okay. But if it's like 50 or 44 or something like that, then I think we're in the game. And I genuinely would expect that from this season. I think it is going to be closer and more entertaining in terms of the championship narrative than last year was, when it was done with 5 to go, I guess. And with sprint races, that's like completely objectively insane. I think Mark's a little more vulnerable. I think Mark Bezzecchi and Aprilia were really, really strong over the last few rounds of last season, even when Mark was still uninjured and there and competing. I think even if you would bet on Mark over most race distances, he has just a random weekend where he chucks 25 points in the trash for no particularly good reason in him. And the fact that he crashed 3 times in the Buriram 2-day test makes me think that, as we usually do with Mark, we're going to see a weekend or two like that in the first 6 or 7 rounds, because that just sort of happens. I mean, you're remembering Mark's seasons. It's very rare that he's taken to the final round in a championship battle. I think we've had it twice. We've had it in his first season in 13. We had it in 17, was it, with Andrea Dovizioso. But there have been a lot of those seasons where you go out of the preseason, you get those first rounds, you get Qatar where he's not so strong, and then you get maybe like a strange race where he really should be scoring a lot more points than he does. Like maybe he'll go a little bit mad in Argentina, or maybe something strange will happen at Kota, and you're 5 or 6 races in and everybody looks and you're like, okay, Mark's clearly the fastest, but there's no gap in the championship. And then the European season starts and he starts to break away. And I think this year it is not impossible that while he still works himself up to fitness and still has maybe that mistake or two, that we go into the European part of the season, he's actually not leading. I can totally foresee that, and I can foresee him being given enough trouble to where, assuming everybody's fit again, to where we go to the penultimate round at least, or to where he's like the championship battle is at least a consideration. So yeah, I believe it a lot more than I did, I think, at this point last year, I would say.
So Val, who is the person or people who are potentially leading the points when Mark is having a sketchy start to the season for you?
Marco Bezzecchi, Aprilia would be one. I find it hard to look past, but also Pecco Bagnaia and Alex Marquez are both also in the conversation for me, based off what, already last season, when Pecco was already sort of spiraling a little bit. He was still scoring at a consistent enough rate to be up there in the points. It's when the floor fell out that it really fell out, and the chasm widened, because there's basically nothing between them after 6 rounds or so, if I remember correctly. And then at the end, after 20 rounds or after 24 or whatever, there's a 300-point chasm. So yeah, I would not be surprised if any of those three. And as Simon says, I think there's a Jorge Martin shaped wild card in this, who, I mean, if Bezzecchi can do it, then I think with the runarounds, I don't see why Martin can't do it. I don't think I trust him to score as consistently right now, but you don't know. You can't really rule him out. None of the others I feel particularly great about, but those 4 they could lead the championship after 5 rounds.
I mean, before Simon comes in, the fact that we're even talking about 4 people being in the mix for something approaching a title fight or a close runner-up fight, I just feel like you two have obviously managed to get some sleep at some point over the winter and come back in absolute full tigger mode by your standards. Because for so much of last season, I think we were all thinking, what Mark is doing now, he will do again next year, and there's nothing to stop this being the narrative. And what really worrying me, as great as Mark is, for wanting a bigger fan base for MotoGP, knowing who the winner will be every weekend, you can look back at an era and go, wasn't that achievement incredible? But when you're in the moment, if you can predict the winner before you head to the track, it's just rubbish for your branch of sport. Simon?
I think Val's right. It's going to be Bezzecchi, if it's anyone. And that's not because I think Bagnaia is going to have a bit of a disastrous start or anything like that. It's because, just looking at the tracks, I think they probably favour Bezzecchi and the Aprilia quite well. We know that the whole package goes really well in Thailand, and I think that this year's race will be closer. Brazil is going to be a complete wild card, but we've always seen that complete wild cards tend to suit Marco Bezzecchi quite well.
Yeah,
remember the first time we went back to Argentina after the big COVID gap, the first time we went to India, he's always done well in those turn up and just race the bike for the first time weekends. And then, I mean, Coda's a weird one, isn't it? Because it should be Mark does really well, but also Mark really loves to fall off whenever he's doing really well, because he gets bored of winning so quickly. And then you also expect Qatar to be a traditionally strong Aprilia track. So I think it's Bez, if anyone can kind of rattle Mark in the early stages. I'm a little bit optimistic that, I've said this for a while, that I think what we're going to see this season is a repeat of 2019 and not a repeat of 2025, which was the last season pre-injury that Marc Marquez was dominant. But he was dominant in a really interesting way, because he was fighting into the last corner on multiple occasions against guys who were nearly able to beat him or able to beat him. And 2 of those, 2 standout races from that year, were in the first 4 circuits of this season, because it was Quartararo in Thailand and Dovi in Qatar.
I'm expecting more of a 17 type of thing. If I'm not mistaken, was it at the start of 17 or maybe at the start of 18? It was one of those years that I think it would have been 17 that Mark was actually almost 40 points in the hole to start the season, after some curious things happened in some of the opening rounds. And it didn't matter in the end, because the season was long enough, and the guy who tried to run away with it couldn't at all at the end. In Maverick Vinales, and the Andrea Dovizioso Ducati package was not robust enough to punish Mark for that early season indiscretion or whatever. And this season, it's just too long for that early part to really massively matter. I think once we get to Europe, that's where, again, my expectation is that's where the gap will grow, and it will turn into a definitive, like others chasing after Marc, and Marc trying to protect the lead. But I think the season's too long for him to lose if healthy. But again, 17 going into the season, there's a lot of intrigue at various points of the season where it did not feel like a foregone conclusion. We have to remember this guy is human. He is beatable. He is, even if healthy, he is beatable. It just helps that the season's so long. At assuming he stays healthy through the season, it really because it widens the, it's the law of large numbers, isn't it? Basically. So he is the fastest rider on probably still the fastest bike. He's the best all around at the various bits of the game. So the longer you stretch out the season, the more likely he is to win. That's how it is. And that's why it would be difficult to bet against anybody. But Marc, if the season was 10 races, I would 100% see somebody else potentially winning. Over 44, it's a little harder. But that doesn't mean there shouldn't be some intrigue. It died very quickly last year, even when they were kind of neck and neck in points. It didn't really make any sense that this was going anywhere as a title battle. I think this year will be more interesting than that.
The most promising thing here is that no one has said it's going to be a season like 2014 where he won the first 10 races. That's the optimistic thing here. We are being pleasantly optimistic about all of this.
Well, this is when I was preparing for the episode, I was just thinking through what my definition of title fights are. And at one end of the scale, there's 2014, which is literally not a title fight. There's no point at which you think that is a title fight. 2025, I don't think it's far behind that. You do have a time when Alex is leading the points and Mark's throwing points away, but you're still not thinking it's a title fight because the outcome is so obvious as long as Mark stays healthy enough. What I class as the Dovi era is interesting because I see those as proper title fights, even though at the time, less than 0 part of me thought Dovi could do it.
19? No. 19?
Okay. Yeah, that was... But the years when it did get towards final round near the end with it mathematically open... I was there's no chance that this package, that this rider and this bike are fast enough to actually beat Marc Marquez and Honda to these championships, but they're making it an interesting season. And I loved how often, like you say, 2019, it was still a last corner shootout. You didn't really care that he was so far ahead in the points because Marc Marquez was being pushed to the limit in the individual races by a sort of slightly revolving cast of people, even though it was kind of predominantly Quartararo and still the Dovi battles as well. So yeah, I'm reeling a little bit because I fully expected to be the one trying to be cheerful in this episode. Well, you guys came straight in and went, Mark's going to win every race and the rider market's settled and no one's going to care. But I actually had a silence between you talking a minute ago because I was just I'm totally thrown by this. I was not expecting this level of happiness. I think the key here is that me and Simon had a meeting about TT content immediately before this podcast, and that's obviously put Simon in a really lovely mood. So
and me not being there put me in a really lovely mood. So yeah,
that's the key. After however long we've done this together, I've discovered the key. That TT content meeting was good as well. If you're part of the audience who is excited for what we do on TT, it's good. It's good. Right, couple of quick one-liner random predictions, slightly out of context, but while we're talking title fights, Moto2 champion, one line each. Simon, you go first.
Alonso.
Val?
Gotta dance with the one who brought me, Daniel Ricciardo.
Nice. Really looking forward to that this year.
As Marc Marquez said whenever we did that video with him, it's going to be an Aspar bike.
Speaking of that video, thank you for the really obvious tap in for a Race Members Club.
It wasn't even intended, but
I know,
whenever Marc Marquez gives you a prediction, you run with it, right?
Yeah. I'm just a vulture for this sort of thing. If you've been following our social media channels, the Race Moto on Insta, X, and YouTube Shorts, you'll have seen that Simon got the MotoGP field to make various predictions of their own, which has been brilliant fun. We've done a supercut of them, which is even more fun for the Race Members Club on Patreon that will be released around the same time as this podcast. If you want to check out all the mad things Simon is going to do for us behind the scenes across the Thai Grand Prix weekend, I've slightly pulled rank and just sort of kicked a lot of the F1 off the Members Club schedule this week and gone you haven't got a season opener for a week. We have
a race. Exactly.
No, exactly. It's ours. It's our town. Another random one-line prediction. Now, I was going to leave this guy to a little bit later in the episode, and I think he might crop up in another section as well. But let's have a one-line prediction about Jorge Martin. I was going to say, what's the highest finish you expect from Jorge Martin this year? But I feel like you might say race wins, in which case I want a number. Val.
Oh, okay.
And I said race. Sprints do count as a race in my mind.
Yeah. 2.
2 wins.
Yeah, 2 or 3 across the sprint in a main race, maybe like 2 sprints in a main race, something like that. He'll be in the top step of podium in this year in the Aprilia. This is realistically the first season. Sorry, I know you said one line. This is the first season I can ever remember where I'm looking at preseason form and thinking, you know what? There's 4 Aprilias could win a race.
Yeah,
isn't that wild?
That's
compared
lovely,
to like where they were
funny.
a few years ago. Whatever you would say, you know what? I think an Aprilia could finish this race.
Or you're going, can Aprilia actually find enough riders for 2 bikes? That was...
For what it's worth, I also think 2 is kind of on the conservative side. Like, if you were to ask me to name the 2, I'd say Indonesia Sprint and Indonesia Main Race, and I think
that's actually a good point. He's going to win both races in Indonesia.
There might be others. There might look. I've made this mistake before. I remember one of our preseason podcasts in which we were ranking the top 10 for the season. It was 2024, and I put Jorge Martin 3rd, and then I paused and like, what am I doing? He's going to win the title. Why am I doing this? And lo and behold, I'm kind of afraid of underestimating even this sort of totally uncertain black box version of Jorge Martin little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing that I'm going to hold off the Martin a little bit because I feel like he's going to crop up prominently a bit later, but it's amazing that we talk about it in the way we are. Simon?
It's worth noting that during the Phillip Island conversations at the test, someone asked him, was there like a circuit on the calendar that if it wasn't on the calendar, he would be really unhappy? And he was like, it's Mandalika. It's obviously Mandalika.
Yeah.
So
that was a surprising answer because it's not like, I mean, it's not a terrible circuit, but it's not anybody's idea of like one of the holy grail circuits.
No. But like there was no debating that answer, was there?
Yeah, it was very quick.
It was Mandalika. That was the answer.
Which tells you that the main thing for Jorge Martin is circuits where he wins.
Yeah,
which is fair enough. That's how I would feel if I was a MotoGP
Jorge
rider.
Martin motivated by winning more than
This also, like mentioning Martin and late season wins and stuff, is another really good point. Val, I would generally agree with you on a longer season is more like to squash a title fight because things will even out, like natural form will take its course.
Yeah.
Depends who's in that title fight, because the Martin and Bagnaia title fights, the more rounds one of them had to find a way to screw up and to alternate in screwing up, the longer the title fight got. It was, we got to August, I think around like Austria time, Bagnaia doing some winning, and it was like, okay, we're done. And then woohoo, woohoo, woohoo. From then onwards, each year it was great. Last one line of prediction in this section, Moto3 champion.
Keyless.
It has to be Max Keyless. I think it will be. I think it will be harder and closer than we're expecting right now. I think it's never so like as straightforward as it feels. Like if you told me after the first 10 races of that one Moto3 season that Fabio Quartararo made his debut, then who would be next year's Moto3 champion? I would tell you Fabio Quartararo. And it's never that easy. I think it's never as easy as it feels. I think the one exception is when everybody said, oh, David Alonso is about to win, and then David Alonso won 14 races. I don't think Keyless is as refined and cerebral in racing. I don't know them as people, so let's not go there. But like cerebral in racing he is stupid fast though. Like
I think his talent ceiling is higher. I get what you're saying,
I agree.
But I think his talent ceiling is higher. And I am looking at his season the way that we looked at Alonso's season. I think it's going to be, I'm not saying it's going to be that level of a whitewash, but it's going to be that impressive where he's just doing things that no one else is doing in a Moto3 bike. And you're like, wow, at the end of the year. He's going to cement himself as like next big thing status this year.
When you say that doing things nobody else is doing, you're of course talking about going to the runoff 50 times a race where it is allowed, where it is not. Yeah, and getting away with it because it's not painted. Yeah. Exploiting racing lines that were not planned by the circuit
there's
designers.
Probably an element of him being cleverer than we've maybe given him credit for and how he does that.
Potentially,
because he does do it very well. He's also, I will stand by this as someone that was a critic. He did something really stupid a while back, got penalized for it, and has never done anything close to that again. So I think there is a bit of a he is capable of learning in a way that people like arguably one of his biggest title rivals, David Munoz, is perhaps not.
Keyless is like on the evidence of what we saw, like just a ridiculous freak. Absolutely. Like, don't take this as a vote of my, like, a lack of confidence. It's just like, something is different when the season starts and everybody looks at one guy and goes, "You're supposed to win the season, so wrap it up, would you?" That's tough. For some reason, that's really, I'm saying for some reason, not because I don't understand what reason it probably is, but just not to assume what goes on in their head. But it clearly makes things more difficult. That sort of attitude of, well, go win 5 races in a row, chosen one, good luck.
Yeah.
And I think it will be tougher than we expect. But I also think that he is the best, most exciting, most talented rider on that grid from what we've seen so far, or at least of comparable experience level. I mean, let's see what like Brian Uriarte shows, etc. Let's see what this season from Alvaro Carpe looks like, blah, blah, blah. But yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned Fabio Quartararo in Moto3 as well, because it's for those of you who have got to MotoGP more recently, and I love the fact that so many of our audience here on our podcast are kind of relatively recent converts, because you are so welcome. Fabio Quartararo famously came into Moto3 as such an exciting young talent. They bent the rules to get him in at the young age he was, and he was expected not to win as a rookie, but to be champion and have, within 2 years have a very quick graduation. Basically dropped off the radar after the first half of an increasingly messy season. And if you weren't paying close attention to Moto3 and Moto2, you didn't notice him at all, basically, for 3 years until he wins a Moto2 race and through a variety of strange circumstances then gets offered a Petronas Yamaha ride with Yamaha's new satellite team, and suddenly, within a few years as MotoGP champion.
Within a year, he's in that last corner with Marc Marquez at Thailand.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is, I think, like a better illustration, I would say. But take the 16 Moto3 season, you have 3 rookies finishing in a row, all of them, competitive 5th, 6th, 7th in the standings. One with 144 points, one with 134 points, one with 129 points. The next season, one of those rookies wins the championship, if I'm not mistaken. But how different their paths in Grand Prix racing were after that, because those rookies are Joan Mir, who will be MotoGP world champion not very long after that. Fabio Di Giannantonio, who will have his whole thing and so many twists and turns that I would waste 30 minutes of this podcast talking about them. And Nicola Bulliga, who washed out of the paddock. Wow. I mean, it probably is coming back and certainly has rebuilt his career, but it's not simple. It's not like, it's never 100% clear. That's what I want to say.
Okay, I said we might mention Jorge Martin again. I feel like he might crop up in this section. The next prediction is who will have a much better 2026 than 2025. Val.
I'm not naming Martin. That's cheating. He wasn't part of the 2025 season.
Yeah, he will have a season.
I mean, yeah. It's like, Diogo Moreira is going to have a much more productive MotoGP season in 26 than in 25. Yeah, didn't start any races in 25. No, that doesn't work for me. And I'm also stalling for time because I haven't come up with a great answer for this.
You had at least an hour to prepare, dude.
Yeah. Look,
it's an hour longer than I usually give you for anything.
This is weird because
Simon, you jump in.
It's me that hasn't done any prep, and at this point and I have an answer.
Go for it.
Go on then.
Save me.
Ayogura.
Okay.
I think Ayogura's going to win races this year.
I mean, I agree that he's going to be much. I don't like to pick a rookie. Because
but I mean,
kind of natural.
Do the weird thing is that he was a rookie last year, but he didn't feel like one, and I think that's because it's Ayogura, paddock old man more than anything else. We had this amazing interaction in the I think I mentioned it in the last podcast, post test, where he did the fastest race simulation of the day by quite a bit, and I asked him if it had changed his expectations, and he'd said yes. Yesterday top 10, today top 7.
Yeah.
So because of that, it just feels like he's been around forever. I think there's also an element of a MotoGP rookie these days versus a MotoGP rookie even when I started is a very different thing, because now they've done, he's done 44 race starts. Well, true. He did a bit of injury. He's done an awful lot of racing compared to someone like... I'm trying to think who was a rookie in my rookie season. Tom Luthi, maybe?
Was it 17?
Was my first year? Or... 16.
16. Oh, I have no idea.
I'm trying to think who was the rookies in 16s. Oh, actually, Aprilia related, Sam Lowe's.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sam would have been a rookie that season. So there's a huge difference in number of. Oh no, Sam wasn't a rookie that year. It was the year after. The only rookie my rookie season was Tito Rabat.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tito.
bless Tito and his MotoGP career.
But you think the amount of race experience that Ogura has compared to that? I feel like I'm trying to justify my own suggestion now, but basically, yeah, I think he's going to do.
I see the point. If Ogura doesn't get hurt when he gets hurt last season, I'm really intrigued to know, because you couldn't really judge what was the kind of natural rookie tail off, drop off. What was him getting a bit lost with the bike, and then his confidence going. How much of it was the injury that actually lingered a long time. There were a lot of things you could put on his season to explain that, but you couldn't end the year confident that one had been a bigger factor, and there wasn't like you couldn't be totally confident we hadn't got a bit too excited at the start when he had that amazing debut. Val, have you got an answer yet?
Yeah. So
because I have another one, so you better hurry up.
The reason I also paused is because like my kind of go-to answer was Maverick Vinales, and I was like, if the Jorge Martin thing is cheating, the Maverick Vinales thing is also cheating, because he was absent for half the season. Pecco Bagnaia.
Okay, yeah. Now, the interesting thing with that one is I wouldn't have necessarily been confident of saying that. Even with a good test, I wouldn't have been confident of saying that. The thing that I think feels different for Pecco is I'm really intrigued to see how much having a future away from Ducati settled changes his headspace going into this year. Because my inkling is that could really, really help his performance, because a lot of last year's problem was how he felt about what was going on as much as what was going on.
I like the fact that we found out, or we were told fairly early on last year, that Pecco's problems were all coming from the ride height device, and Ducati insisted it wasn't, and then spent all winter talking about their fabulous new ride height device. And now Pecco loves the ride height device, and his number one issue, which is corner entry, is back. Like that issue is gone, and he can enter the corners again. I think that change alone gives me the kind of confidence that he's going to have a better season.
I think what will help, and I can't quantify it so much, but what will help is that if he misses Q2 on Friday this season, then like Ducati bosses aren't going to have to be wheeled out in front of the garage talking to Sky Italy about the ongoing Bagnaia rut, because at this point, it's kind of like it's not going to be news. Yeah, it is going to be news, but it's not going to be like this. The paradigm of MotoGP is shifting in front of our eyes. Like 2025 was basically an extended play of him being kicked off the throne, and he wasn't reigning champion, but he kind of was the guy who you eyed coming into every weekend as sort of the guy who is supposed to be the quickest at the end of it, the guy who you follow as your almost vessel for seeing the weekend trajectory. And in 2025, his teammate pretty quickly, but he put the screw in over and over again, made him irrelevant. And now he's obviously very, very relevant, but he's irrelevant in that sense. There's no longer the weight of the universe, the weight on the shoulder. He has been beaten. Now the only thing to do is, dust yourself off. And 2025 for me was this like season-long TKO that he suffered. And now the time is to rebuild. And I think people will now be more excited about his successes and less zeroed in on his failures, because now the most recent Pecco we knew is the largely non-functional version of much of 2025, rather than the old conquering version of 22, 23, and even the 24 that he lost the championship because he won double-digit Grand Prix.
Yeah, no, I can totally go with that. Simon, do you want to chuck in your other answer before I chuck in my slightly inconclusive ones?
Yes, he is going to disagree with this, but Fabio Quartararo.
Dear Lord.
Because Fabio Quartararo was one ride height device failure away from a race win last year. And as much as he may think that everything is terrible and awful, on his day, whenever everything aligns for him and he can be Fabio Quartararo, he can still win races. And a race win or two this year would go an awful long way to, I think, just kind of reinforcing who he is and how fast he is.
So he's going to steal another bike in the night, right? Is that how that's
I was going to say, this is an
I
enormous
still
faith.
think there's so much recency bias as to they had a bad test at a circuit that they hit. This bike is not going to be as awful as it is right now by the time we get to Silverstone, especially with Silverstone being later this year and a ton of new parts coming for that bike. There are races this year where a slightly improved M1 with Fabio Quartararo on board it can absolutely win races.
I'm really looking forward to revisiting these predictions at the end of the season. Whether that's right or wrong, it feels brilliantly bold right now. I love it.
Somebody's getting clowned on at the end of the season. It very well might be you and I, Matt, but it also might be not us. So
I set a reminder.
I absolutely love it. Okay, mine. I'm not actually committing to either of these in the end. I was gonna say Joan Mir has the. But it's not so much that Honda had a slightly less impressive final test. It's more that part of me is thinking, with the Quartararo deal Honda probably done already, I just wonder if that is a bit disruptive to what Mir and Honda were doing together. And I feel like it might have the potential to get in the way of that kind of steady upward trajectory that we were seeing. Yeah, so I'm dubious on that. I'm not going to fully commit to that because I feel like it could quite easily go completely the opposite way. Simon?
If Honda have built a bike that's a little bit more confidence-inspiring and Mir has half the number of crashes he had last year, which is still well into the double digits, and he scores the points that he was in whenever he crashed out of those 30-odd crashes, actually, that's an all right season. Like that more than doubles the points that he had last year. Yeah. And turns into something that's substantially better. Something that makes him renewable for Honda.
Joan Mir is the statistician's play here, Matt. That's the smart money play. It's because, like, obviously he was a crash machine in races last season, but he was a crash machine to such an extent that you look at it and you go, this can't be the true number. This must be like a small sample size skewing things a little bit, because these are retirement numbers of a 1970s bike that's leaking oil on lap 2 every time. Like, you can't do this in the modern era. It is physically impossible to DNF from so many races. That has to go back to the mean. They say reversion to the mean. It has to happen to some extent. I think that's where we'll end up, because again, what was happening last year was statistically impossible. It was a marvel, but not in a good way. But yeah.
Okay, I've inadvertently done the full Val and gone ultra spreadsheet with my improved season prediction. Yeah. I will stick with it.
You've moneyballed it, to use a reference that Val will appreciate.
Absolutely.
I don't think that applies. Anyway,
I took it as like
statistician's
a thing Val says, whatever it means. So yeah, Moneyball. My other one is not even a firm prediction. It's just something I'd really, really like to see happen, and I don't think it will. I'd love to see Brad Binder have a much better season, because I just think for the KTM Brad Binder story to end with more of the same as we saw last year would just be rubbish. But from listening to what he said in testing, from looking at where KTM is, I have no evidence to suggest that it will be better, and that's a bit of a shame. Right, a couple more one-liners then. Where should we go? Oh yeah, this is fun. Simon, you can go first on this. What tangible difference to Maverick Vinales' season will we see from his partnership with Jorge Lorenzo?
More social media.
Val?
Wow.
You are the Vinales correspondent, so this is your turf.
What does that mean? Does that mean I can predict the future? Those two people both
predicting
operate.
Jorge Lorenzo is
yeah. It's going to be like much of the same, but with more talking points around it, is how I would put it. That's kind of my
it's going to be much of the same, except whenever he does finally win a race on the KTM, Jorge's going to take all the credit.
Yes, that's yeah.
Yeah, okay, I like that. Okay, given these guys have been so happy, let's end on the negative. Who is going to have a significantly worse 2026 than 2025? Simon's jumped in quick for this.
Yeah, and it's going to sound really mean, and I don't mean it to be mean in any way, but it's Alex Marquez.
Ooh,
and I think that Alex Marquez's 2025 was like the perfect season. It was the year that everything aligned. It was the year that everything came together for him, and it was glorious. And he absolutely enjoyed every moment of it. He absolutely milked it. it was the dream season, but it was a little bit caused by others struggling a little bit, like Pecco. Like Pecco would always have been the P2 to Marc if you'd made preseason predictions. So I think the rise of Aprilia, the little bit of a struggle, the little bit of improvement from Pecco after his struggles, all of that kind of just means that Alex is not going to have the year that he had last year. And like significantly worse. This is the thing. The ceiling is so high. Last year was so good that significantly worse is fourth in the championship with only 1 or 2 race wins.
Well, okay.
You know, it's finishing third every weekend instead of second. It's not a big step back. It's just going to look like a big step back given how absolutely glorious that 2025 was.
So I would have said until quite recently, I do see him having a much worse season, and that it could be worse than that. But the way he's been in testing, I'm predicting the same as you, but I'm not seeing it as a negative. I see him in the mix in the top 5 in the championship and getting some race wins. And it would have been quite easy to see what he did last year in that very particular circumstance of what was happening with other riders, other teams, and the bike that he had as like a complete one-off where his career stats, his CV graph might look like here, whoosh, second in the championship, and then back down again for forever. And I don't think it's going to be like that. I think he's going to hold his own this year. Technically, yes, points-wise, position-wise, that could end up being a much worse season than last year. But I think perception-wise and how he's seen in the paddock, it won't be. It won't be like reverting to Alex Marquez, the nepotism signing, doing not much on the Honda till it rains.
I think that's gone forever.
Yeah.
Which is great. Yeah. So well-deserved.
Val, who do you see going backwards massively?
Oh, before we go on, sorry.
Yeah.
I need to say this because it's proper podcast fodder. This weird thing happens whenever MotoGP's on overseas events and back-to-back, and no one actually goes home. And I bumped into Alex Marquez in the sock section of a Uniqlo yesterday.
Did you see specifically what socks he was buying?
No, I didn't. But he did buy, him and all the team also went to Starbucks while I was in Starbucks. And the order for the Italian team with the Spaniard was literally 10 espressos, which is just so Italian.
Oh, it's interesting. I mean, at that level of income, I'd have somebody else buy my own socks. Like, that's like the one thing I would definitely.
This is why he's signing a factory contract for next year.
Yeah.
So he can afford a sock buyer.
Was he buying socks for Marc?
Aww. You know what?
There's nepotism allegations again.
Yeah. He gets like 10% of Marc's check to buy him socks and like bring him McDonald's during a race weekend and stuff like that.
There's a Blackadder joke about the Prince of Wales spending like £2.5 million a year in socks. That's basically Marc Marquez.
But like, why would you do anything that you don't want to do when you're at a certain level of income, right?
But maybe some people like buying socks though.
Val, who's going to have a worse season?
Yeah. Well, see, I think Top Rack Got Ugly is only going to win 20 races instead of 21. Like he did last season, so, it's going to be a bit of a downturn. To be serious for a second, this one also feels like cheating, but it doesn't anymore because somebody else also just picked him for a much better season than before. So that gives me ground to do it. Fabio Quartararo's season's going to be a total waste of everybody's time, and everybody's going to be upset consistently, and potentially maybe they should cut it short at the 10-round mark or whatever. I'm not excited for that at all. The only person less excited for it than me is Fabio Quartararo, the MotoGP rider for Yamaha. Yeah. Also, Yamaha potentially less excited.
Jorge Lorenzo is currently doing a deal to rent everything Maverick knows about how to get out of a Yamaha contract.
Yeah,
Fabio.
Potentially.
I did not expect that. Okay, mid-August. We reconvene on these clips because by mid-August, I'm slightly paraphrasing what you both said.
Can we
by
do
mid-August,
yes,
we're seeing Simon predicts Fabio will win the British Grand Prix. Val predicts Fabio will not be riding for Yamaha by the British Grand Prix because they've split.
This is possible. Remember that Maverick Vinales was second for Yamaha at Assen, and like 2 rounds later, got himself fired. It's,
They are different people, quite different people.
To be briefly slightly serious, there is one difference in anything Quartararo's involved in and the Vinales situation, in that Vinales did not have a contract to go and ride for a Japanese manufacturer. And if he were to try and blow up a Yamaha on track, Honda would not be happy.
For sure.
It would affect his future, like it would affect his long-term career. He's not going to cruise into an Aprilia because.
No, I agree. I don't think there's going to be any like nefarious scheme from Fabio to get. I also think he's still, ultimately he likes to ride MotoGP bikes. Yeah. And that's part. I don't think it's going to be a lot of fun for anybody involved, and I think there's going to be a lot of negative vibes in general, sourness and divorced couple energy. Just not super excited about it. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Cohabitating divorced couple energy.
Yeah. Sounds fun. Other like in the less obvious.
Oh, but no, we need to round this Fabio thing. I feel like Simon is coming back in on Fabio.
Oh no, I'm coming in on the next one. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, right. So when this episode goes out, once it's live, I'll put a poll in the community chat section in the MotoGP chat in the Race Members Club of the two options, and there will only be two options. Quartararo wins the British Grand Prix. Quartararo has split with Yamaha by the British Grand Prix. You vote for which one you think is more likely. Then no in betweens. There will not be another scenario, that or that. Back to the podcast.
I wanted to throw in, and this could go the other way, and I hope it does go the other way, but I don't like the Enea Bastianini KTM vibe. He didn't have a great season last season.
No, I was going to say worse than rubbish.
Stretch. Yeah, but there was that stretch where it looked figured out, and for me, there's the slight concern of there might be contractual clarity from both parties fairly early on that maybe they don't want to continue. I don't know yet. We don't know what the landscape even looks like for KTM really outside the factory team. But if there's clarity that like Enea doesn't really enjoy that whole thing anymore and KTM now sees him as surplus to requirements, I could kind of see like a major phoning in, relatively speaking, over the last 15 rounds. Not necessarily through the fault or negligence of anybody, but just kind of a bad sour mood and going through the motions and just a general dourness, which seems to affect both Enea Bastianini and KTM at various times in MotoGP. When he was talking about after the test at Portimao, which was not a good test, Bastianini said that I'm always a happy and positive person. Like, are you? Like, you don't have to be. It's fine not to be. I don't know that that's the case.
It's fundamentally not the case from what we've heard about what goes on behind closed doors.
Yeah, which is like,
and towards the end of last year, it was not the case whenever he split with.
Well, yeah, and we that's
so we know
like
it's not.
KTM's already basically put that on record during their launch and speaking like various, whether through the Tech 3 boss or through the because we kind of like, hey, is this true that he didn't take it well? And they were all like, yeah, he didn't take it well. He didn't. He really did not take it well. And that's not a judgment call. That's just like, that's a recipe for things getting worse before they maybe get better for two parties with alternate partners. Because again, that's a good seat and that's a good rider. So I don't know. You know what? Let's hope it works itself out.
Simon, do you have another nomination for anyone going backwards?
Yes. It's not going to be a shocker for like regular listeners, but my argument of 2024 being peak Ducati continues. They will win less races and win the Constructors' Championship with a smaller margin this year than they have in previous years, as that kind of that moment of peak domination of MotoGP just continues to slide away from them a little bit. Not enough in that it's going to change who wins everything, but it's going to be further away from them that it's total domination.
Yeah, I can see in sheer numbers terms it actually being a lot worse, but it not feeling like it is because they're still getting it over the line, and because like some of the biggest rivalries will still be internal. It'll be Alex versus Mark. It'll be Bagnaia hopefully being back. Aprilia looks really strong. Bezzecchi looks really strong. I know we never quite finished talking about him in a way. The fact we even talk about Jorge Martin in an optimistic frame of mind when he has done one test after his year started with, not lying about an injury, but not being fully open about an injury development that was going to rule him out of yet another test and put another season, behind where it should be, and having going into his second year at Aprilia compromised, having already committed to leaving the team. All of these things should be terrible, and yet we're here 2 weeks later going, oh yeah, he's going to win races.
Just to throw it out there, there are rumors floating around that the reason he needed that extra operation was because he crashed a motocross bike towards the end of last year. And I just to put a pin in those, the really quite surprised that the people who put those rumors out there put them out there sounding quite uninformed about the thing.
Okay.
But yeah, that has been categorically denied by everyone involved with receipts to me.
Yeah, sure.
So
I'm glad that's nonsense, because when you said that, I was like, that for that to have happened would have kind of been in keeping with some of the things that have happened around Jorge Martin in his recent career, and I just didn't want to learn of another one. So if that's nonsense, brilliant. That's great. I'll be very pro Martin season going well.
That's the kind of people have shown me stuff to.
Okay, let's round off with a few more one-liners. Okay. Top Rack Razgat the Ugly has popped up briefly already. Simon, I'm going to make this a Grand Prix only prediction, not a sprint one. What will Top Rack's best Grand Prix result be this year?
9th.
Val?
8th.
And do you think sprints will be any different, or is it literally this
is going to be harder?
Yeah. There's less attrition in sprints, and you need attrition to score.
His best results this year his only top 10s will come in attritional races.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if Yamaha drop-off levels might give him more of a chance to hold position for a bit.
It sounds like the Yamaha drop-off this year is fairly dire.
Yeah, that's why I thought he might pull something off in the sprint that he couldn't then hold on to.
Oh no, I think it's because they've lost their qualifying performance as well.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
They've
given away the one tool they had.
Because it's not about him for me.
No.
I think he's looked fine enough in testing. I completely even with all the stuff that's going around in terms of adaptation, etc. I think the baseline level of do you see the glimpses of the talent? Yeah, I do.
Relative to the other Yamahas, he's been grand.
Yeah. But the bike's not ready, and I struggle to forecast it being ready enough. I mean, that's okay. Everybody knows what the end game of this is. They just have to keep that in mind. It's
totally.
It's easier said than done. Always when we're going to get to round 12 or something, and always there's going to be a lot of forgetting going on about what this is actually about. I think because that's always what happens. Because it's a lot easier to say that before the season than once you're in a round after round after round, and somebody's qualifying whoever that is 15th, 16th, and it's so easy to forget. But the Pirellis are still coming. An all-new bike is still coming. This is a completely from scratch project from Yamaha. Everybody should treat this like this is 22 tests, I think.
The one caveat to that is that I am exclusively talking about dry races because he's a big, tall, heavy rider, and if it rains, I don't know what might happen then. He's Petrucci build, isn't he? He's long-limbed.
Yeah.
I don't remember him being exceptional.
He's not exceptional in the rain
races,
there's a lot of people in MotoGP that are terrible.
Yeah. Well, and it could negate a lot of disadvantage that he doesn't have to. It could raise his relative level, couldn't it?
Yeah. And every rookie that has ever used a Michelin rain tire adores it.
Yeah.
They're so confidence inspiring.
But it also purely theoretically, every rider on the MotoGP grid can win a wet race. Every single one. I want to make that super, super clear. We've seen in World Superbikes where the format is not that different. A guy showed up randomly for one weekend as an injury replacement, caught the right rain strategy, won the race, got the red flag at the right time. Totally could happen.
Yeah.
Very, very easily. And in fact, it very nearly happened last season where we would have had a podium of, Bastianini, Ogura, somebody else at Kota. Was it at Kota or was it Le Mans? It was one of those two where basically the people who picked the right tire didn't quite get the benefit from it. I believe it was Kota. So easy. Remember, this is a great part about MotoGPs because the races are short and it's kind of one stint. There's no pit stop, stuff like that. If you're coming from other types of motorsport, legitimately, whenever there's a hint of cloud in the sky, suddenly anybody could win. Genuinely, that's cool. Yeah.
Do you want to laugh?
Yes.
Do you know what's in the forecast for this weekend?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
There's been a few big dumps of rain. That's really unusual for Buriram. It's you get either overcast days here where it rains, but it's kind of unusual to get like just a big morning shower like we got this morning. I arranged to meet someone for coffee at like 11 a.m. and he came by scooter and I had to borrow a rain jacket from my bag to get home because it just dumped for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not very usual here, but a few of those over the course of the weekend would be great fun.
Well, really? Would they, Simon?
Oh yeah, no,
really? Yeah, the man who last time there was a flag to flag race, the lead members club comment was, "Why does Simon hate fun?"
Flag races are not the same thing. Wet races and flag to flag races are not the same thing. I like wet races. I don't like artificial entertainment.
Stopping that bit there. Next one-liner prediction. Let's go sprints and Grand Prix. Just make it any race. Diego Moreira's best result of the season. Our other rookie.
Same as Toprak, P8, P9. He's on a Honda. It's going to be hard.
Yeah. I'm there.
For different reasons. I think the base level of the bike is higher, but the bike is harder to find confidence on. So it's going to be for different reasons. He's going to fall off from better positions than Toprak will score.
Yeah,
that's
a tough one. I would say maybe 6th, 7th, maybe. It's because I'm trying to remember like seasons that I would feel are comparable. And maybe if you think 2019 Miguel Oliveira on the KTM, that wasn't very good still. And like even if you're around 15th all season, sometimes that just there's going to be one weekend where that randomly turns into potentially 7th. So
yeah, okay. And our final one-liner prediction and the final prediction of this episode: what will be the most noticeable thing that Franco Morbidelli does in 2026?
I know the answer that you want.
Do you? I might be feeling really positive.
I can't see any substantial change. He's going to have He's going to have as many, if not more, podiums than he had in 25, but they're still going to manage to be overshadowed by him doing Frankie things.
Pole position, book it.
Yeah.
Well, like book it, like not like I'm 90% confident, but I think that's quite likely. Actually, I think that's a distinctly plausible outcome given the number of rounds. Not sure how well he'll convert it, but actually, like in the sprint, maybe.
Almost doesn't matter with where he is perceptions wise right now, as well.
I don't know on track. Hopefully nothing.
But that was the problem last year. The good stuff, there was enough good stuff. Okay, he should have done better on the Ducati, but there's enough good stuff to actually get a really strong championship position. But no one noticed and no one cared because he's also ploughing into people.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to end on an optimistic note, strangely, despite that mistress question, by going, I would like to predict that Frankie will get enough smooth podiums this year that you get to the end of the season and go, oh, that was all right. He was still quick enough, as well as he'll do some Frankie stuff.
So, all right, I'm going to do this again, and I was doing it all of 2025, and I wasn't necessarily rewarded for it by stuff that was going on track, and that's fine. It's like you don't have to feel vindicated when you're right. You just have to be right. You have to say stuff that you believe in your heart. I know I'm right on this one. So yeah, Franco Morbidelli is a bit of a like on track menace, and the jokes on that are totally fine. People who say that he is like obviously too slow to be on the MotoGP grid or not contributing performance-wise are categorically wrong. You don't know ball if you say that. You do not pay attention to MotoGP if you say that. I'm sorry. That's okay. Not everybody can pay attention to everything. There's lots of things I don't know anything about. I watched the Winter Olympics and tried to be an expert in every event that I tuned into, and clearly was saying a lot of nonsense to my poor wife, who's probably like, stop trying to explain this sport you've seen for the first time to me. That's okay. It's okay not to know things, but I just want you to know that if you think that Franco Morbidelli is a total no-hoper in terms of talent, right now in terms of performance, you are wrong. It's okay to be wrong. You are wrong. That's fine.
I have a one-liner question for the two of you.
Oh, please.
Because whenever I asked multiple MotoGP riders who's going to finish third in the championship, they swore at me because it was so difficult.
Yeah, tough one.
So let's hear it.
Pecco.
Pecco.
To me, that's... Yeah.
For me, it's
to me, that's pretty clear.
With Pecco second.
Okay.
I mean, it's one of Bezzecchi, Pecco, Alex, and Jorge Martin for me. But yeah.
Okay.
One that I hadn't even planned to throw in, but now, as he hasn't come up, Pedro Acosta's championship position.
6th.
5th.
Behind 2 factory Ducatis, a Gresini bike. Ooh, maybe 2 Gresini bikes because Firmin, who we also haven't mentioned, and Firmin will be back. Yeah, 5th to 8th.
Yeah, I think 5th. I think I would go 5th because my
the best non-Italian motorcycle.
Yes.
No, I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that wholeheartedly.
I'll say that.
That's a totally safe bet. And for me now to get popped in briefly there, I almost would have put him forward for who's going to have a worse season as a kind of like my fear is that the injury and the timing of it is really not good for getting momentum, but my hope is that he'll be back soon enough and the season's long enough and Gresini's a sorted enough team that he will be fine.
He's so young and so like a puppy that he's just going to bounce back from it and just be strong right away again. I think
Great. Well, let's get on with the season opener. These two will be back for that episode. I'm not around for that one. I will be following the race. And then what I'm looking forward to much more than Thailand now is the British Grand Prix and the resolution to our Yamaha prediction.
If you can convince 75,000 other people to look forward to it as much as well, Silverstone might be in less of a crisis.
If we can get a crowd to Silverstone to see either Fabio walking out or Fabio winning, that's our mission.
Yeah, do you think the Silverstone people, if some of them has, put on this podcast and suddenly they're like, wait, already, right now?
Yeah,
the season hasn't started yet, and we're hearing these strays.